But the tyrants of the 21st century are not stupid. They do not suffer from the same delusion as the tyrants of old, namely, the idea that human freedom can be suppressed by the barrel of a gun. Granted, there remain repressive regimes throughout the world that employ the infrastructure of a police state to encroach further and further upon the rights of the people. Yet more insidious by far is the way that the deep state operators, the powers behind the throne of today's democratic dictatorships, use psychological warfare to convince us that slavery is freedom. That the answer to the problems created by centralized forms of control is to impose even greater centralization of control. That people are most independent when they are in a state of utter dependency, relying fully on these systems of ever more centralized control. So, what does the tyranny of 73 BC or the tyranny of 1381 or the tyranny of 1869 look like in a modern context? We have watched as the world has been brought to the brink of economic collapse by the concerted actions of bankers and politicians, supranational bodies and intergovernmental organizations. We have witnessed the plundering of developing nations by political pirates, who have enriched themselves at the public trough and then run to the IMF for the privilege of selling their country into debt bondage. We have seen our so-called leaders and their mouthpieces in the establishment press drag us into war after war based on ill-defined mandates from international bodies, like the UN and NATO, which we have not created and in which we have no say. And when we protest that each of these actions has left us more impoverished and enslaved than before, we're told that the answer is to give the same leaders and authorities even more power over our lives. In the wake of the worldwide cataclysm of the 2008 financial meltdown, we were told that only a new world order of ever-tightening financial cooperation and coordination could save us from another crisis. Point 8. In the midst of the Eurozone panic of 2010-2012, Europeans were told that the solution to the crisis was not to curtail the EU's power and influence, but to expand it by creating a European finance ministry with the power to intervene in the economies of individual member states. Point 9. In the aftermath of 9/11, Americans were told that only greater government intervention in the daily lives could prevent another attack. They stood by, defenseless, as a formidable new cabinet department, the Department of Homeland Security, was set up. And ever since, they have watched helplessly as the government's tools of surveillance and propaganda have been systematically deployed not on enemy nations, but on US citizens themselves. The would-be tyrants, globalists all, have only the hammer of centralization to fix the problems they devise. And, from their perspective, every expression of human liberty that pops up anywhere is a nail in need of hammering. Those of us who claim our independence from the system and stake out for ourselves those rights that our progenitors fought and died for are dubbed extremists, and are socially demonized for our refusal to go along with our own enslavement. Those of us who grow our own gardens to free ourselves from dependence on the multinational food conglomerates are derided as doomsday preppers. Those of us who invest in precious metals or alternative currencies against the devaluation of the debt-based fractional reserve derivatives-backed central bank-issued funny money that serves as the basis of our system of economic dependence are dismissed as gold bugs or Bitcoin bros. Those of us who refuse to recognize the authority of the government to impose limits on our freedom from unlawful searches and seizures and even freedom from violation of our own bodies are branded dangerous subversives. From our viewpoint, it is increasingly clear that the next stage in the unfolding expression of the ideal of liberty will not be found at the ballot box. The belief that voting for another politician to come down from Mount Olympus and fix the problems that the political class has created is not only the most childish of fantasies, it is, in and of itself, an abrogation of the very freedom we are seeking. Indeed, the political system into which we have been born is itself just another kind of enslavement. And the slave masters of our political system are even more fearsome than the slave masters in Capua or the troops of King Richard. Why? Because, unlike their predecessors, they pretend to be our friends, our advocates, our representatives. Sure, we're free. After all, that's what they tell us, isn't it? Sure, we have control over our own destiny. After all, if we want to change the world, we only have to wait 4 years for our next chance to push a button or pull a lever or touch a screen. Yes, we can. Who today could believe in such a fairy tale? Ironically, discovering that we have been politically enslaved all our lives is in itself liberating. Once we see through the propaganda and platitudes of the modern-day tyrants, the chaos and tumult of the political system come into sharp focus. We are not cogs in a machine called society, to be dictated to by some nebulous entity we have been taught to call the government or the authorities. Instead, we are freeborn men and women. We are free to interact with whomever we want in pursuit of our common interests. We are bound by the ethical injunction not to initiate force against others or to take things from others against their will. We are accountable for our actions and their consequences, whether those consequences are positive or negative. We are responsible for what we do or don't do to help others in our community. We can heed the moral imperative to make the world better, or we can ignore that imperative and leave the planet to rot. No, there is no political messiah who will descend from the heavens to tell us what to do or to protect us from the bad guys. Instead, there is only us, the community of like-minded liberty lovers we foster by exercising our freedom in cooperation with those around us. In reality, we do vote each and every day, not for some false political savior, but for whomever we choose to associate with, whatever we choose to spend our money on, and however we choose to invest our time and energy. This is the essence of freedom. It is strange, then, to watch Americans celebrating Independence Day in these times. We see the political puppets of all stripes line up to pay lip service to the ideals of human freedom even as they seek to strip those freedoms from the very public they are addressing. The crowds, lulled into a stupor by patriotic fervor, are happy to go along with these shibboleths. They have their hot dogs and their fireworks, they celebrate their independence just as their forebears did, and so, in their minds, all is well. But all is not well. Now, as in every generation throughout human history, the ideals of liberty are under attack, and it is up to the vanguard to protect those ideals with the very lives, if necessary. It is time for people the world over to ask themselves if they stand with the ideals enshrined in the Declaration of Independence, a document that reminds us in a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same objective ends are designed to reduce them under absolute despotism. It is their right, it is their duty, to throw off such government, and to provide new guards for their future security. Our liberty is not a vague concept to be reaffirmed on occasion, when it suits us. Our liberty is a decision that we make each and every day, a decision to live in independence. Or in slavery. Every day is Independence Day.